have with us this evening Christina Cook. Christina, are you here?
I'm here.
And she's here tonight with the Stemersion presentation. Welcome, Christina.
Thank you. You can call me Tina. My name is Tina Cook. I'm currently a middle school teacher at the Waukesha STEM Academy Saratoga campus. I've been there for 4 years since the birth of STEM. And I'm here to present a little bit about Stemersion, a program that I launched last year and recruited some businesses and schools to also take part in this program. So as a teacher and as a facilitator the past 4 years, I have seen the need and the call for community involvement and engagement among our schools as well. And after doing some research the past couple years on the importance of 21st century skill development, I decided to launch a program called Stemersion in our district. And it is through this program that I truly began to see the importance of community relationships and learned what a true partnership is between a business and a school. And most importantly, the impact that it has on kids. So this past year, I recruited 4 schools and 4 businesses locally to become involved in Stemersion. Flight Academy, STEM Saratoga, STEM Randall, and what was the other? South High School, of course. And then CH2M Hill also is involved, as well as Weldall, SBX, and Mortensen Construction, also willing to take part. So everyone that has taken part the past year has willingly done so. And they were really excited about it too. So I began by setting a vision for the program, what it was, and what the responsibilities were. Created a website and set up some site tours during the summer where teachers could go out to the businesses and see exactly what they do. And it is through these schools that a lot of reflection happened and a lot of them began to really see how important partnerships were. So what we saw was businesses were able to bring forth their knowledge and expertise about the skills that kids need to succeed in the workforce. And by workforce, not just career-bound students, but really students who might be interested in a 2-year program or work right after high school. But whatever they decide to do, really getting them set for that and to be successful. And then teachers, of course, bringing their expertise about curriculum, standards, and of course, kids. So partners were present during these projects, and during the summer, partners and teachers got together to create a project. It could be something that was 2 weeks long. It could be something that was 4 months long. And what they did is they really sat down and created a project that integrated 21st century skills and also Common Core standards or next-gen science standards. And they assessed and worked with kids through the entire process. So partners were involved in a lot of the assessments and a lot of the feedback, and a lot of reflection took place after that as well. So through this program, we've seen a lot of success, and I'm hoping to continue it, slow but sure, by continuing to add schools and businesses locally to be involved and sticking to that mission. So I think Stemersion is a great step in ensuring that all kids are successful no matter what their career path. This evening I invited a couple people who have been a part of the process. Jeffrey Allen and Krista Crowder have been involved with Weldall, and they'll talk just a couple minutes about their experience.
Great.
And then South High School and Mortensen Construction is also here to talk a little bit about their experience as well. Just a couple minutes, and then we have just a video to close.
Great.
Good evening, everyone. We were really excited when Tina approached us to come and talk to you all about our experience with Weldall. We've spoken to the board many times about this experience over the past year and just how impactful it's been for not only our students, but our program. We had the opportunity to work with Weldall on a project that was spanned over a month's period of time. And during that month, our students got the opportunity to actually visit their facility, see what their workflow is like, what it's like to work in a work environment that specializes in manufacturing, and actually provide resources for them and tools for them to improve their business.
Our kids had a pretty amazing time. They were divided up into 4 different groups. They went all the way, they started with engineers and talked about the design of different projects that Weldall gets. Then they went through the production. They were actually out on the floor. They went through all the different buildings. They got to see how the steel and the metal was cut. It was pretty incredible. Then they actually got to weld. They got to put on the welding helmets and weld with the welders that were there. And then they finished off with like a safety presentation, which Weldall felt was really important as well. And then we finished with that, and then our students had 1 month to plan out how Weldall could incorporate iPads into their business. We were told that they wanted to use iPads. They knew that our students were probably a lot more knowledgeable about iPads than they were. So they asked our students to help them make a design of how they can incorporate the iPads in their company.
I think that was one of the best parts about this experience is it wasn't just a field trip. It wasn't just students traveling somewhere and getting that experience. It was then them contributing back to the community. Weldall had a specific task that they asked of us and asked our students to do, our 6th and 7th graders. And they came back that month later, and our 6th and 7th graders had a whole bunch of presentations for them on how they could improve the efficiency of their business using iPad technology. The other piece to that is Weldall got a step in our shoes of figuring out what it was like to be a teacher and to assess students on the work that they were doing. They were all given rubrics, and we coached them on how to use that rubric while students were given the presentations, and they actually assessed all of our groups. So they were filling out the rubrics, they were providing feedback, and that was all given back to our students as part of that process. So it really was a true partnership in that we had equal ownership over everything that was taking on in this program. And we applaud Tina, and we thank her for allowing us to be part of this experience. It was amazing, and we're excited to continue on in the years to come.
Great. Thank you.
Waukesha South, and specifically the Engineering Academy, had a chance, and we're lucky enough to work with Mortensen when it came to Stemersion. And really kind of the first question that we went at was kind of a question that Mr. Baumgart had posed for us, and it was really what's the difference between an engineer that's an introvert and an engineer that's an extrovert. So, Mr. Baumgart, if you could answer that one for us. Because the introvert looks at their own shoes and the extrovert looks at your shoes when you're talking to you. But we were really working on our communication skills with a lot of our engineering students. So we met up with Mortensen and talked a considerable amount with their marketing group. And then we also talked a lot about the calculations that go into raising a crane actually through our engineering statistical analysis. John's going to talk probably more specifics about what we actually did, but it was nothing but positive for our kids. They look forward to having Mortensen come in and really give them some high quality, real life feedback outside of our teachers as well. So a big thanks to Tina for inviting us.
So I'm John Nails with Mortensen Construction. I'm the field operations manager, responsible for all of our construction activities, as well as hiring our field forces, our carpenters, our laborers, our operators, and cement masons, as well as the superintendents and college grads. This program that we started with Tina and everybody is extremely important. I can't stress that enough, that the private sector and the school districts need to come together. We see, as the construction industry, I'll speak for that, there's going to be a deficit of workforce out there. And I think the mantra that everybody has with construction right now is it's dirty, it's unsafe. The kids who drop out of high school are the ones who go into the trades. That's the farthest thing from the truth. I need the critical thinkers. I need the technology. I need the ones who can think on their feet, but also want to use their hands. So this to me was a great bridge. It's the stepping stone in the right direction. We're excited to continue this forward. But it also was an opportunity for the teachers and the educators to come in and look underneath our hood and see what's out there so that they can take it back to the classroom. You know, if our educators are in the classroom talking about something that's out in the industry, they need to be able to relate it to what's really happening out there. So Tim and Tina and the rest of the teachers came to us and spent 2 days with us at different times, and they took time out of their summer to come and do that. And I think that it opened their eyes to something that they never seen before. We're using iPads in the field with my carpenters right now. They have to use this to build the buildings. They have to be able to fly through a three-dimensional model to find their dimensions to be able to build it. In the next 10 years, the construction industry is going to see the biggest changes we've ever seen. We need these critical thinkers and these kids right now. But if we don't submerge ourselves into the education system and help educate the next generation, the construction industry dies. The manufacturing dies. We have to get involved. So I highly recommend we continue this, get the community behind this, and let's get going. So, all right?
Okay. Questions?
Oh,
Oh, one more.
I'd like to say the best for last, but
here we go.
exaggeration. I'm Josh Skogman. I'm with Mortensen Construction also. I primarily helped out at Saratoga School. I was involved in the Dream Home project, which consisted of breaking the kids into teams that each team was responsible for putting together a design, putting together the drawings for that design, then putting together an estimate to actually validate that they were within budget. They then had to develop a plan so that they could sell the project to a potential customer. And the last step was putting together a physical model. It was, quite honestly, it was amazing to see what some of these kids came up with, the creativity and just what they did as a team. It was shocking, quite honestly. As far as what the kids got out of it, or what I think the kids got out of it, I didn't, quite honestly, I didn't realize it until towards the end of the project. But at the beginning, I think it was a little overwhelming for a lot of the kids. They said, you know, I don't know how to build a house. There's a lot of stuff to it. It's a big project. I'm not sure where do I start? But by the end, and I actually had one of the students come up to me and say, you know, I didn't know at the beginning how to build a house, but it's not so bad when you break it into the little pieces. Mm-hmm. And for me, that's when kind of the light bulb went on, that it doesn't matter if you're building a house, it doesn't matter what your challenge or your problem is. If you can break it into those little manageable pieces and you can work, you know, put all those puzzle pieces together, that's when you can be successful. And so I hope, I know some of the kids got that out of the project. I would hope all of them would. And just to build on what John was talking a little bit there, you know, from maybe a little bit of a selfish perspective, you know, Mortensen, we need to understand how these kids, how they communicate, how they learn. They are the next workforce. So they're the next generation that's going to be coming into our industry, and we need to understand how we can help them get up to speed and be productive in the least amount of time. You know, shortening up that learning curve is vital. So I want to thank Tina. This was a great experience, and I'm glad that I was a part of it, and looking forward to next year do it again. So, thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone like to ask questions or comments? Oh, yeah, there's a slide presentation. Yeah.
so.
Ben, okay, you guys hear what he said? He said the balloon is either positively charged or negatively charged. And so I still don't understand what was happening when you bring the balloon to it. Go ahead, Sam.
It was going from the balloon into the wire, like it was close to the air.
So it was jumping across into the wire. All right, other explanations? Something is happening. Ben?
My guess is that as the balloon is negative.
Get his questions, comments, Mr. Baumgarten.
Comments, I guess. As you know, I've had the opportunity to be closer involved with some of these things because of my liaison work with the charters. But first of all, I'd like to congratulate Tina on what she's done with this, because having partners to help our kids through some of the problem solving and stuff like that over a continuous period is extremely valuable. And I've had the chance to see some of the benefits of that work while I was at some of those episodes that we saw there. The other thing I think that we have to realize that we're getting out of a program like this, or the various programs. I mentioned, I think it was at the last board meeting, that we're beginning to be recognized as, getting branded as being a pretty good operation here for innovation and in the way we're doing our education of our kids. We're doing some different new things. And it's not now just that we're realizing it, but when you think about the fact that we have companies that are coming in and partnering with us and that they are seeing the way we're doing things, that's having, they're getting a positive impression of what we're doing in the Waukesha School District, which is going to be beneficial to us, I hope, over the long, long range, to see this, the abilities, the capabilities that the kids that are going through our programs, and how we are actually asking businesses, what do you want to see out as a graduate of the Engineering Academy? That's a specific question we're working with over there and at the Health Academy. So if you think about the fact that these people are coming in and observing, not just helping, but observing the quality of our education program, this has got a tremendous payback to us. And Tina, your work is being very well appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Baumgarten. Mr. Como.
Thank you, Ms. Brusing. Just kind of curious to get a little bit of feedback from the business folks here with respect to the use of a rubric as a tool. And you had a chance to use it, and kind of just want to see what your reaction, or understand what your reaction is to that as a tool.
Well, the rubric was a different format for us, by all means. I think we struggled with it a little bit to understand kind of the format and what was the end goal out of the whole rubric. I think going forward, I think there's definitely a way for us to kind of break through that and make a better partnership. And I mean, I think when Tina gave me that, you know, we kind of sat down and said, okay, I understand what you're trying to do, but how do we fit into that? And working with Waukesha South, that's where we were trying to figure out what avenues of, can we come in and help teach? And that's where we grabbed onto the whole presentation and marketing side, and then also the math side. But that's a new one for us on the business
Yeah.
side. It's really hard for us to understand it, I guess.
Yeah, and I'm in business also, and it's a different tool, and it seems a little clunky sometimes for me, or maybe even sometimes too precise for me. Just kind of depends on what is in that rubric. But I just wanted to see what your reaction was to it, and
Right.
as a tool. So appreciate that.
No problem.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yeah, you know, years ago when we had some of our darker days, and that was many years ago, thank goodness, I remember the superintendent at the time said, spend some time in the schools if you want to feel good about things. And so I really appreciate the video and bringing the schools to the board. And I'm sure you people that are having the opportunity to interface with our schools from the manufacturing side are getting that feel-good environment as well. I think the most important, one of the things that I remember years ago when we were talking about the wealth of nations and how things are done, you can manufacture it, you can grow it, and you can mine it. Well, those are all three pretty major things, but you know what? There's a fourth leg to that. There's education. I think education creates as much wealth and value as manufacturing, growing, and mining. And I think I've always felt we should have a strong partnership as best we can with our employers around town and around the community. And I think it's just it's best for everybody. And I really appreciate the effort our staff, our teachers, our students, and the community is putting into these programs.
Thank you, Mr. O'Brien. Ms. Ryanchek?
Thank you. So thank you to Tina for being this bridge and creating this atmosphere that we can bring the partners in. And I am blessed to have Tina be a teacher for both of my kids. First of all, can you repeat the schools and the businesses? I have both STEMs, the Flight Academy South, was that it? Okay, and then Weldall, Mortensen, and who else?
CH2M Hill and SBX.
Okay. And then, Weldall, were you able to incorporate, where are you again? Oh, were you able to incorporate any suggestions from the kids on how you could use the iPads?
Unfortunately, Jenny from Weldall couldn't be here, but she has talked to me about how Weldall is incorporating some of the utility functions of the iPad, and they're looking at those features as far as workflow from department to department. And that was one of the things that our students suggested to them, is that they had a lot of paper workflow, and that could be condensed and consolidated with PDFs and using that to transport through departments. So they're currently working on expanding that whole operation within their program, so that's exciting.
Excellent. Thank you, and thank you both for all that you're doing at the Flight Academy. Is there anything we can do as a board to help support this and expand this into more schools and businesses?
Just as far as just your support through this, and if just getting the word out, I think is the biggest obstacle. And you know, the businesses know people and our schools know people too, but it's always the commitment that's the most difficult, is just getting businesses to commit to the time. And it's a great opportunity, but just that commitment and being dedicated to the program. So if you know any businesses or schools out there that would like to get involved, please let us know. We'd love to do that.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Edlin?
Thank you, Madam President. Tina asked me that question just this last week, so I invited a couple of people in our audience who will speak during the public comment portion tonight from the trade unions that are here. And they were all excited to jump on board about this. And one person I want to recognize out here is Joel Silke. Can you raise your hand, Joel? I didn't know Joel until I was working for my present employer, which I've been there, 14 years now. Joel was a steam fitter there and working on a construction job, and after getting to know him a little bit, we graduated the same year from Milwaukee Tech. We both went to a trade school, which, played out in our careers, very important. And I think all my fellow board members might recall that when I was first on the board, I said, boy, I'd love to have us someday have a Waukesha Tech high school. And that may not happen. We're not a huge community that can support a specialty school like that, but with charter schools and the opportunities that we're having through initiatives that Mr. Crone has brought on board, like the STEM program, it's a modern-day version of Milwaukee Tech. And tech is taking on a whole new meaning as things evolve as fast as they are. I'm sure you'll hear from our speakers. We have a gentleman here tonight from the operating engineers local, which I don't know if ever you drive through the interchange that's being rebuilt. Look at a bulldozer, and you'll notice a stick on the top of it with a little ball on top. That's actually replaced the guy who's out there with a stick and a transit. They're doing grading on elevation through telemetry now. It's something attached to the front of the bulldozer. I mean, we're evolving in the construction field, and I hope they also mention the problem that we're having in getting people even interested in coming into the trades, and the average waiting list, age on the waiting list to get an apprenticeship. I was blown away when I found that out this week.
Really?
For all the people that graduate from high school and are only forced in the direction or encouraged in the direction of college, you're missing out on where the jobs are. You're missing out where the good paying jobs are when you graduate, and you don't pay for the education. You're paid to go to school. You're taking on an apprenticeship where you go to school and you go to a job during the day and work with journeymen, and you actually have a great career opportunity. It's not a job, it's a career. And it's not just, as what was alluded to, as a dirty job that somebody who couldn't get into college has today. No, you have to be sharp in math. You have to be sharp in critical thinking skills. It's very involved, and it's sometimes I kind of chuckle when I realize that people are somewhat demeaning and not meaning to be because you don't have a college education. And when I look at an application, a job application, this job requires a degree in such and such. I didn't go to college, and I ended up just fine in a career. I'm really kind of disappointed that we put so much value in one particular area in our society. So anyway, I encourage these gentlemen to participate tonight and come in the public speaking portion because they're excited to be on board with Tina, and I'm sure Tina's going to be glad to have them on board too. So it's many other opportunities can open up at GE or other community manufacturing partners, and but it's not just that area too. There's also accounting firms in our area, law firms. It doesn't have to be limited to just technical jobs.
Right.
A lot of career opportunities. Thank you.
Mr. Edlin, thank you for the plug for the technical professions. I'm familiar with tech. My brother went to tech, and I'm, from suburban Milwaukee, and I know the kind of education that you got there, and it made you really very, very ready for the work world. Do you know if today's kids coming out of Bradley Tech, if that's what it's called today in Milwaukee, do they have a different background that makes them more ready to work, or is it similar to what you did, or what is it?
I really can't answer that.
I can't either.
Because I don't have any experience with Bradley Tech. We had one reunion since I've graduated from high school. It was our 30th graduation. I don't know, were you there at all? No? Somebody coordinated this. We had a rather large graduating class, and the year, I don't know, it was a couple years before I entered there. I didn't go there as a freshman, as a sophomore. They had just changed the name from Boys Tech because it was an all-boys school. And I think there was probably 15 girls in our graduating class maybe, and probably about 500 or 600 guys. So it was quite a change to have, girls at the school. And eventually, I think it ended up being even because my my supervisor, his wife went to tech, and she said at that time it was about 50-50. But I can't answer the question on whether it's
Okay.
changed or not. It is.
I wondered.
mean, they've torn the old school down.
Yes.
It's much smaller than what it was. Of course, we lost our industrial base in this country, back in the 80s when we had a great recession, I'll call it, and that really stifled people wanting to get into the manufacturing environment. They were afraid to. And everybody at that time, I believe that's when the real push was to go to college. Now, Milwaukee Tech was also a college prep school for those who were going to go that route. So I don't know about today.
Well, I just remember that the kids that would graduate from tech really came out of that school ready to go to work in various fields, and that was the wonderful thing. And then we got away from that for a while, as you said. Society, overemphasized, college, and that's really, really not for everyone. But people like yourself that got into the trades and were very successful, and when I had an opportunity to work closely with a lot of the service building people that are tradesmen, and they just have amazing skills that those of us that did go to college don't have. Hands-on things that, and highly technical things. So thank you for the plug. I really deserve that. Yes.
Right now, we are piloting a program with Bradley Tech at Freighter Hospital.
Oh, great.
That I highly recommend. If you guys get a chance to, you can Google it, you can pull it up. It has gotten all the way to the state education level. It was started last year. Freighter Hospital wanted to do some outreach with the community, and so Freighter Hospital, Cannon Design, who's the architect firm, and Mortensen teamed up. We're doing a large expansion to Freighter Hospital right now.
I saw it. Yeah.
And so Bradley Tech hand-selected 25 students at the sophomore level, and part of their curriculum every month is to come to the job site, and they are hands-on for the next 3 years. So they're in the second year already, and they are getting exposed to the healthcare side, to the design side, to the construction side. And these kids have seen an array of different sides of the industry, from archaeology, because at that hospital site, there was an old potter's graveyard that had to be exhumed. So these kids got to go from archaeology to see healthcare, to design, to the point of, the operating engineer will love to hear this, is the dirt work contractor allowed one of the students to get into the backhoes, and she got to operate a backhoe. So this is a big deal. This is a program that I've talked about at the governance board for Waukesha South, of something we need to, again, take this forward, not just with Bradley Tech, but again, it's going to take the private sector and the public sector to work together. But these kids being able to be there hands-on. We have a great video that shows these kids excited about it, saying having us in the field, seeing it firsthand, is a lot better than a teacher telling us in a classroom with a video. So we've got to somehow keep pushing this forward.
Do you think that, the direction that we're taking will produce students that are ready to go into the work world, such as yours?
I think so. I mean, I think it's going to open up their eyes to see what they really need to do to be successful, and also put that bridge together of what they're learning today in the classroom really does apply out here. I mean, we were all there at one point sitting in the classroom, and we're getting taught some math equation. We're like, okay, what's this mean? But when you can see it working firsthand, it makes sense. And when the kids are seeing this out there, and when somebody can pull up and show them, here, look at what I'm doing with this, and this is where it applies, I think that's where it clicks.
Okay, thank you very much, and thank all of you for your interest and your willingness to support these learners. It's something that they'll carry with them the rest of their lives, so thank you very much. Yes, Dr. Langell.
Thank you. I just wanted to add briefly, because I think it's a very positive thing that's changed, and it speaks to Steve's point, but it used to be Milwaukee Area Technical School and Waukesha County Technical School.
Yes.
And now I think the fact that this is, MATC and WCTC, it just shows that I think our society is moving in a good direction, which is advanced education and technical skills is every bit as valuable as advanced education and, and French or something.
Yes.
And I think that that's a really good trend that's happening in this country in the last maybe decade or two. So, real positive.
Thank you. Yes, Mr.
I'm
Edlin.
sorry, Tina, that I wasn't here for your presentation. Did you have a chance to talk about the class that you and Brian went to? Would you come up here and just share your experience for a day with that? This was a chance to get the educators into a technical class so that they could learn about the thermal energy lab to be able to teach some of the processes from a technical standpoint. So,
Yeah, just real briefly, my teaching partner, Brian Brookins, and I attended a class, I think it was in Brookfield or West Dallas area, Brookfield area, regarding the thermal energy lab grant that we wrote last year. And so we started off real slow. We weren't really sure how we were going to use this because we didn't understand a lot of the math and science behind it and all the other application pieces. So we talked to Steve and we talked to Jim Murray about it, that the teachers needed to know more about it as well, and so that we could teach the kids and help them to apply that as well. So Steve was nice enough to set up a class for us, and we really, it brought it down to a level where we could understand it, which was really important. And so we learned a lot about the steam and how really the thermal energy lab works and the parts of the thermal energy lab. And so right now we're really working on, and again, it was very much at a level at which we could understand and that we could teach students, because we weren't able to do that before. So we are now working on some curriculum this summer. Brian's currently teaching a class on energy right now. So he'll be taking the students in there to really show them the parts, to apply some math behind that, as well as some of the math teachers have also got on board with that as well. And teach them the conversions and latent heat and all those really good vocabulary terms we learned. And really bring students in to see the application of it. And it's really interesting because it used to be the custodian's office. And so when we converted it to a thermal energy lab, we really began to see how we could use our learning spaces in different ways. So we're really looking forward to building some curriculum around that and using it more often.
yeah.
So.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tina.
Yeah. And that's the important part is, in my opinion, is to allow our educators to have opportunities in these businesses to see the applications of what they're teaching in an enlightened view of how it's going to be used down the future in careers.
Sure.
And I think it's more engaging when you actually are able to experience it.
I'd like to ask Ms. Hemstrom, our HR director, do we have a hard time or an easy time finding tech ed teachers?
There's not enough tech ed teachers to go around for the whole state.
Interesting. So,
They graduate them in single and double digits each year.
wow.
And I think we hired 6 2 years ago, and we probably hired 4 last year. And we'll have a posting for 1 this year.
So we're lucky to have got them.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you, Tina. Thank you very much for all that you're doing on behalf of our students and helping them to have experiences that weren't otherwise possible. So thank you very, very much.